целью которого является распространение знаний о лингвистике во всем мире, содействие ее развитию и стимулирование сотрудничества между лингвистами разных стран. The tradition of holding such summit was laid down a few years ago, but the Kazan International Linguistic Summit Challenges and Trends in World Linguistics KILS-2020, held last November, gained the largest scope. In summer of 2020, it became known that the Kazan Federal University, in partnership with the Institute of Linguistics of the Russian Academy of Science, won the right to hold the main World Scientific Forum, the International Congress of Linguists, ICL, in 2023. This Congress, held every 5 years by the Permanent International Committee of Linguists, the oldest and the broadest international scientific community in this area. The purpose of this community is to disseminate knowledge about linguistics throughout the world and promote its development and stimulate cooperation between linguists from different countries. Казанский международный лингвистический саммит 2020 года стал своеобразным первым этапом к проведению в 2023 году 21-го Международного конгресса лингвистов в Казани. Он собрал более 500 участников из 24 стран мира, таких как США, Великобритания, Германия, Италия, Испания, Нидерланды и другие страны. Россия была представлена учеными из Москвы, Санкт-Петербурга, Томска, Екатеринбурга, Нижнего Новгорода, Красноярска, Новосибирска, Челябинска, Владимира и многих других городов. Всего мероприятия саммита KILS-2020 посетили более 3000 человек. На 10 его научных сессиях и ключевым проблемам, которые стоят перед различными лингвистическими направлениями. А на закрытии саммита при подведении его итогов было принято решение сделать его проведение ежегодно. The Kazan International Linguistic Summit 2020 became one of the first preparatory stages for the 21st International Congress of Linguists, ICL-21, to be held in Kazan in 2023. It brought together more than 500 participants from 24 countries of the world, such as the USA, Great Britain, Germany, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, and others. Russia was represented by scientists from Moscow, St. Petersburg, Tomsk, Yekaterinburg, Nizhny Novgorod, Krasnoyarsk, Novosibirsk, Chelyabinsk, Vladimir, and many other cities. In total, the events of the Summit 2020 were attended by more than 3,000 people. At its 10 scientific sessions, a wide range of issues was discussed on the main vectors of modern science, key problems facing various...
Recording in progress.
At the closing of the summit, it was decided to make it an annual event. В этом году на очередной Казанский международный лингвистический саммит зарегистрировались 600 участников из 28 стран мира и со всей Российской Федерации. С 15 по 19 ноября вам будет предоставлена уникальная возможность послушать выступления всемирно известных лингвистов и главных редакторов в престижных исследовательских журналах, а также выступить с докладами на предметных секциях и поучаствовать в дискуссиях. In year 2021, 600 participants from 28 countries and from all over the Russian Federation have registered for the Kazan International Linguistic Summit. From November 15 to November 19, you will have a unique opportunity to listen to speeches by world-famous linguists and editors-in-chief of prestigious research journals, make presentations at subject sessions, and participate in discussions. Слово для приветствия и открытия предоставляется ректору Казанского федерального университета, академику Российской академии образования, профессору Ильшату Рафкатовичу Гафурову. Now we would like to give the floor to open the summit to the rector of Kazan Federal University, academician of the Russian Academy of Education, Professor Ильшат Рафкатович Гафуров.
Спасибо. Dear participants of the summit, уважаемые участники саммита, Харматле, саммита Катмашучалар. Я рад приветствовать вас.
I'm pleased to welcome you on the online platform of Kazan Federal University, one of the oldest universities in Russia. First of all, I would like to thank our partner and co-organizer of the summit, the Permanent International Committee of Linguists, which is today the world's leading professional community uniting linguists from 34 countries. As already mentioned, Last June, the committee made a very important decision for us. In 2023, for the first time in Russia, Kazan Federal University and the Institute of Linguistics of the Russian Academy of Sciences will host the next 21st International Congress of Linguists. More than 1,000 scientists from dozens of countries will take part in it. And I hope by that time, all the problems will be solved by that moment. The previous congresses, which are held every 5 years, were hosted by the leading scientific centers of Rome, Copenhagen, Brussels, Paris, London, Seoul, and other cities. And we're really glad that in 2023, this center will be the capital of Tatarstan, Kazan. Our summit is called Language Diversity in the Global World. And it is one of the preparatory stages for the World Congress. Apart from Kazan Federal University and Permanent International Committee of Linguists, several institutions take part in organizing the Congress. They are the Institute of Linguistics and the Institute for Linguistic Studies of the Russian Academy of Sciences, the Russian Association of Teachers of Russian Language and Literature, and the International Association of Teachers of the Russian Language and Literature. I'd like to express my personal gratitude to their leaders, prominent linguists, Professor David Bradley from Australia, Professor, member of the European Academy, Andrei Alexandrovich Kibrik, corresponding member of the Russian Academy of Sciences, Evgeny Vasilyevich Golovko, and of course, advisor to the President of the Russian Federation for Cultural Affairs, Chairman of the Council for the Russian Language under the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Ilyich Tolstoy. One of the honorary guests, as well as participant of the summit, is Kamila Hamans, Associate Secretary General of the Permanent International Committee of Linguists and Secretary to the Organizing Committee of the 21st International Congress of Linguists. We're delighted to welcome him. Today, our university is a large scientific and educational holding, which employs about 10,000 specialists and trains approximately 50,000 students in more than 700 educational programs. Among them, there are about 11,000 students from more than 100 countries. They have the opportunity to study the most up-to-date and demanding specialities. The uni has its own clinic with an inpatient hospital, 2 boarding-type lyceums, and a general education school. University have formed several platforms for technology transfer in almost every area, as well as a technopark with area of 18,000 square meters that provides our undergraduate and postgraduate students with the opportunity to try themselves in innovations and practical application of the knowledge gained. The event of 2021 was that Kazan Federal University joined the ranks of the winners of Strategic Academic Leadership Program titled Priority 2030, that aims at, firstly, achieving national goals of the Russian Federation's development up to the year 2030, secondly, balancing spatial development of the country, and thirdly, providing high-quality education to the regions of Russian Federation. According to the plan, by the year 2030, Kazan Federal University will become an open center for talented professionals, keeper of unique history and traditions, multi-profiled classical university with inclination to business that would be economically self-sufficient, harmonically integrated into the technologies of new industrial revolution, uniting polyethnic and polyconfessional cultures of Europe and Asia, and making an invaluable contribution to achieving national goals. Traditions of Kazan Federal University are deeply rooted into numerous scientific schools, among which Kazan Linguistic School holds special place. It was led by the outstanding linguist Бадуэн Куртане and contributed to the development of world linguistics and glorified Kazan Federal University and the city itself. Theoretical ideas of the school representatives have had a beneficial effect on the development of linguistics for almost 150 years. In the world of linguistics, Kazan School is recognized as a model for anticipating the science of language. Its representatives were the first to apply mathematical models in linguistics, predicting the introduction of the mathematical and subsequently computer linguistics at Kazan University and beyond. It was Kazan where one of the most important areas of linguistics came into being, experimental phonetics. The achievements are now used in various areas, from the correction of speech pathologies to the creation of tools to the speech analysis and synthesis. Бадуэн Куртане and his followers began research at the intersection of linguistics with other disciplines, laid the foundations for a number of interdisciplinary areas in linguistics, such as neurolinguistics, psycholinguistics, sociolinguistics, and others, which are currently being actively developed by the young generation of Kazan scientists. Our researchers have fruitfully expanded these ideas within the framework of an integrative approach to linguistics. All the leading linguistics laboratories of Kazan Federal University have been created to solve interdisciplinary research problems in clinical, quantitative, and digital linguistics, which ultimately determines their high competitive abilities. Traditions of Kazan School of Linguistics are carefully preserved and maintained by the modern generation of Kazan linguists, which promote Kazan Federal University in numerous ranks, such as world top 200 universities in the area of linguistics, top 250 in the area of the English language and literature, and top 300 in contemporary languages. Kazan Federal University ranks high along with 3 Russian universities in all 3 language QS ratings. Dear summit participants and guests, I sincerely hope that our event will allow us to clearly and deeply understand the challenges and trends of modern linguistics. I'm sure that on various discussion platforms we will be able not only to get acquainted with the world's best scientific achievements in this area, but also to create conditions for the formation of new joint projects. I wish successful work to everyone. 19th of November is dedicated to the teachers of a high school, and as we all belong to this area, I would like to say that in the history of our country, we now have our own professional holiday. I congratulate you on that, and I wish you successful work, as well as scientific discoveries, good health, happiness, and prosperity. I hope we'll all see each other very soon offline, as they say nowadays. Thank you for your attention.
Благодарим Ильшата Рафкатовича Гафурова за приветствие и руководство организации Казанского международного лингвистического саммита «Языковое разнообразие в глобальном мире» KILS-2021. We express our gratitude to Ильшат Рафкатович Гафуров for welcoming the organization of the Kazan International Linguistic Summit, Language Diversity in the Global World, KILS-2021. В качестве ведущих партнеров нашего саммита выступают Международная ассоциация преподавателей русского языка и литературы МАПРЯЛ и Российское общество преподавателей русского языка и литературы РАПРЯЛ. Слово для приветствия представляется президенту международных ассоциаций преподавателей русского языка и литературы и Российского общества преподавателей русского языка и литературы, советнику президента Российской Федерации по вопросам культуры, председателю Совета по русскому языку при президенте Российской Федерации Владимиру Ильичу Толстому. The leading partners of our summit are the International Association of Teachers of Russian Language and Literature, МАПРЯЛ, and the Russian Society of Teachers of Russian Language and Literature, РАПРЯЛ. The floor is given to the presidents of МАПРЯЛ and РАПРЯЛ associations, advisor to the president of the Russian Federation on Cultural Affairs, chairman of the Council on the Russian Language under the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Ilyich Tolstoy.
Greetings to all the participants of Kazan International Linguistic Summit. Language diversity in the global world. I'm sure that in the hospitable capital of Tatarstan, the best linguists gathered today, joined by their colleagues online from all over the world. This summit serves as a preparatory stage for the Congress of Linguists that is taking place in Kazan in 2023. My best regards to the participants of the summit. May it result in great experience, effective work, and communication. On behalf of the Russian Association of Teachers of Russian Language and Literature, and the International Association of Teachers of the Russian Language and Literature, that I lead and that are the partners of our current summit. I congratulate you and wish you all the best.
Выражаем слова признательности Владимиру Ильичу Толстому за его приветствие и оказанное содействие в организации сегодняшнего саммита. We express our gratitude to Vladimir Ilyich Tolstoy for his welcome and assistance in organizing today's summit. Ведущим партнером Казанского международного лингвистического саммита «Языковое разнообразие в глобальном мире KILS-2021 является Постоянный международный комитет лингвистов. Поэтому я с удовольствием предоставляю слово для приветствия заместителю генерального секретаря Постоянного международного комитета лингвистов, секретарю Организационного комитета по подготовке и проведению в 2023 году 21-го Международного конгресса лингвистов господину Камилю Хамансу. The leading partner of the Kazan International Linguistic Summit, Language Diversity in the Global World, KILS-2021, is the Permanent International Committee of Linguists. Therefore, I am pleased to give the floor to the Deputy Secretary General of the Permanent Committee of Linguists, Secretary of the Organizing Committee for the Preparation and Holding of the 21st International Linguistic Congress, Mr. Kamil Hamans.
Thank you very much for inviting me here and for having me here. It is a great pleasure and a great honor to be here and to say a few words on behalf of what we call CIPL, which is the Comité International Permanent des Linguistes, the International Committee of Linguists. We are almost 100 years old, and maybe not everybody knows what we are, and so let me say a few words about our history. The International Committee was founded shortly after the First World War, and it was the initiative of Antoine Meillet, the well-known French linguist, since he wanted to bring together linguists from all over the world, so from France, but also from Germany and from the UK, and so from partners who had been at war shortly before. Unfortunately, Meillet couldn't organize the conference himself since France was not neutral. And so we asked two Dutchmen, One of them was Professor Schijnen at Nijmegen University. The other one was Professor Christian Cornelius Uhlenbeck, at that moment already an emeritus of Leiden University. He asked these two linguists to organize a conference, and that happened in 1928. And at the conference, again on the initiative of Meillet, an international committee was formed which consisted of 10 linguists, and all major names of that time were joined in the committee. And among them there were Bailly, Boas, Jespersen, Daniel Jones, Meillet himself, Trombetti, Roswadowski, etc. And each several years the committee organized a conference till the beginning of the Second World War. Then it stopped, and the series was resumed immediately after the Second World War. But then SIPO also started the Bibliographie Linguistique, the linguistic bibliography, which still exists and which still produces its bibliography surveys each year. In 1948, SIPO was accepted by UNESCO, and a year before, SIPO assisted in the preparation of the foundation of the Conseil International de la Philosophie et des Sciences Humaines, which is an organization also affiliated to UNESCO and which brings together all the scholarly organizations in the humanities. In the long history of SIPO, all major linguists came to the conferences and gave their papers, their plenaries. In 1962, the then very young Noam Chomsky was invited by Roman Jakobson to address the Congress in Cambridge, Massachusetts. In 1967, it was Jakobson himself who spoke at a conference in Bucharest. In 1972, in Bologna, it was Bilabov. In 1982, it was Greenberg. In 1987, when the conference was organized mainly in East Berlin, but there was an excursion to West Berlin, we started to think about concentrating on endangered languages, about which I'll say a few words in a minute. We have been almost everywhere. We were in Canada in 1992, in Quebec, we were in Paris in 97, in Prague in 2003, we were in Korea, in Seoul, 5 years later, back to Europe in Geneva in 2013, and the last conference took part in South Africa, in Cape Town. And there is a difference between the pre-Second World War World Congresses. They were small and only the most eminent linguists came to deliver their papers. Nowadays, the international congresses, which are organized each 5 years, as said before, are huge congresses with hundreds and hundreds of participants from all over the world. And let's hope next year, in 2 years' time, we will have hundreds and hundreds of participants here in Kazan too. But yeah, we don't know due to the pandemic. As I said, at the Congress in Berlin in 1987, that was the 14th conference, a petition was raised by Christian Lehmann and a few others to pay attention to endangered languages. And that petition was accepted. And at the 15th conference in Quebec, not only a session, but the whole conference was devoted to this theme. And that was on the basis of a publication by the then president, Bobby Robins, and the then secretary Bob Uhlenbeck, not the same Uhlenbeck as I mentioned before, his second cousin, the publication by Robinson Uhlenbeck of their book Endangered Languages, which was the first survey of the field that appeared in 1991. And due to the next president of the Comité International Permanent des Linguistes, Stefan Wurm, we were able to assist in preparing and publishing the UNESCO Atlas of Endangered Languages. And at the moment, we still hope to be able to assist a new version of that atlas, since the study of endangered languages remains one of the priorities of the International Committee of Linguists. And that's why we are so happy to be here now in Kazan, where one of the most vibrant minority languages is spoken and will be supported by our conference next year. Thank you very much.
Благодарим господина Хаманса за приветствие и поддержку в организации и проведении настоящего саммита. Надеемся на дальнейшее плодотворное сотрудничество и, конечно же, на успешное проведение в 2023 году 21-го Международного конгресса лингвистов. We thank Professor Камиля Хаманса for his welcome and support in organizing and holding this summit. We hope our fruitful cooperation will lead to successful holding of the 21st International Congress of Linguists in Kazan. Одним из соорганизаторов Казанского международного лингвистического саммита «Языковое разнообразие в глобальном мире» KILS-2021 является наш давний партнер Институт языкознания Российской академии наук. Слово для приветствия предоставляется одному из сопредседателей научного комитета саммита, вице-президенту 21-го Международного лингвистического конгресса ICL-21, директору Института языкознания РАН, руководителю Центра когнитивных исследований Московского государственного университета, доктору филологических наук Андрею Александровичу Кибрику. One of the co-organizers of the Kazan International Linguistic Summit, Language Diversity in the Global World, KILS-2021, is our long-time partner, the Institute of Linguistics of the Russian Academy of Sciences. The floor is given to one of the co-chairs of the Scientific Committee of the Summit, Vice President of the 21st International Congress of Linguists, ICL-21, the head of the Institute of Linguistics of the Russian Academy of Science, head of the Center for Cognitive Research of Moscow State University, Doctor of Philology, Andrei Alexandrovich Kibrik.
Good morning, dear colleagues. Do you hear me well? Okay. I'll speak Russian, as I've been instructed by the organizers of the summit. I know that the translation, the interpretation is provided. We have a button for translation and interpretation in our system. I suppose that the synchronic interpretation is provided and we are able to hear how it all sounds. A lot has already been said about our event, which is going to be held by Kazan Federal University together with the Institute of Linguistics of RAS, Russian Academy of Science, in 2023, the International Congress of Linguists. Of course, it is a very serious and responsible initiative. This is one of the biggest and some of the most serious linguistic forums that have ever existed. It has more than 90 years history. I am very grateful to my Kazan colleagues who last year proposed the idea of such like repetitions or rehearsals of these sort of events. Generally, these summits are organized by colleagues from Kazan. I think that the idea was a very good one. The last summit was really an example for us all, and I hope that the current summit is going to be even more interesting and more fruitful than the previous one. It is a rehearsal of the Congress in many meanings. On the one hand, it is a rehearsal from the viewpoint of the educational program forming. On the other, it is the rehearsal from the viewpoint of interaction between diverse organizations, including our institute, Kazan Federal University, and also many other Russian organizers. Also, it is a preparation for the so-called style of communication, which is absolutely appropriate for the ongoing Congress of Linguists. We are gradually working out this communicative interaction type. This initiative of Kazan Federal University is really brilliant, and I consider that we will have been prepared for the ongoing Congress and will be able to hold it on a very decent level. The motto of the Congress 2023 sounds like stepping up to our broader linguistics. Let's go further to the broader linguistics. Let's widen our outlook, not only within the narrow linguistic views and ideas, but let's hope to build the connection between the issues of language, between the issues of linguistics, and some borderline disciplines. I hope that this is a right purpose and right goal. Of course, we all subdivide our reality in diverse categories, but still, no categories must be included into our vision of reality. Even if you deal with narrow linguistics, you must be in the context. This is the key idea of 2023 Congress, and I see that the structure of the summit is also cooperated and coordinated with the general mission of 2023 Congress of Linguists. Many various problems that will be discussed during the summit totally correspond to the future Congress mission and goals. Also, of course, I know that I have several minutes, and I would like to share my impressions of one more parallel event that was held several days ago. Thank you, dear Kazan colleagues, for your help to assign another date for the KILS instead of the event that I visited a few days ago. Thank you for this opportunity. The event I'm talking about right now was held in our institute for the third time, and every time it is dedicated to an important social aspect connected with linguistics. There are no doubts that fundamental science can deal with many miscellaneous issues, the significance of which could be not very clear and transparent for the general public. At the same time, according to a well-known aphorism, scientists and scholars who deal with science, first of all, please their own curiosity. And in this meaning, it is really very important to bring science back to the society and make it all clear and transparent for the wider audience what is meant under this or that branch of science, under this or that branch of field. As I have already said, it was the third forum in our institute. This series of these forums was begun in 2019, and this time it was dedicated to language politics. To be more exact, to the issues of how many groups of various states, countries, and families structure and plan the usage of diverse languages. This is simultaneously a research and hand-on topic, directed to the development of the new strategies to achieve the aims. What is really relevant now is the keeping of languages. Unfortunately, nowadays, the languages are gradually disappearing. This is the global process, and significantly, it can be applied to the situation in Russian Federation. It is really very noticeable nowadays, as I have already said, in Russia and many other countries. That is why the main aims of language politics in Russia is not to be represented from fragmentary and poorly connected aims. We need to change something now. So our 3 days forum, which was finished on Saturday evening, was really held very successfully. Many linguists and activists in this field who are not even the professional scholars, but still they are very involved into practical sphere of dealing with the language, took part in our event. The interest for this problem is really very high, not only in Russia, but all over the world. And the movement, the tendency for keeping the languages all around the world has been already formed well, and I hope that it will be continued. I suppose that we've made a big contribution to the future of the Congress during our event, our forum. The text in English, Russian and Tatar are represented. I think it is very symbolic. We need to keep not only languages, but also functional styles within the frameworks of diverse languages. And it is really very good that at least partially the scientific linguistic context is represented in Tatar language. It is very important for the development of Tatar language, for the increasing of its popularity and prestige. It's a very good perspective. So coming back to the ongoing summit, I would like to wish all the organizers and participants to have a very interesting and successful conference. Thank you all very much.
Выражаем слова признательности Андрею Александровичу Кибрику за приветствие и оказанное содействие в организации сегодняшнего саммита. Надеемся на дальнейшее плодотворное сотрудничество и успешное совместное проведение в 2023 году 21-го Международного конгресса лингвистов. We express our gratitude to Andrei Alexandrovich Kibrik for his greeting and assistance in organizing today's summit. We look forward to fruitful cooperation and successful holding of the 21st International Congress of Linguists in 2023. Одним из соорганизаторов Казанского международного лингвистического саммита «Языковое разнообразие в глобальном мире» KILS-2021 является наш давний партнер Институт лингвистических исследований Российской академии наук. Слово для приветствия предоставляется одному из сопредседателей Организационного и научного комитетов саммита, члену-корреспонденту Российской академии наук, директору Института лингвистических исследований РАН, члену Совета по русскому языку при Президенте Российской Федерации, члену правления Фонда сохранения и изучения родных языков и народов Российской Федерации, доктору филологических наук Евгению Васильевичу Головко. One of the co-organizers of the Kazan International Linguistics Summit, Language Diversity in the Global World, KILS-2021, is our long-term partner, the Institute for Linguistic Research of the Russian Academy of Science. The floor is given to the one of co-chairs of the organizational and scientific committees of the summit, corresponding member of the Russian Academy of Science, head of the Institute for Linguistic Research of the Russian Academy of Science, member of the Council on the Russian Language under the President of the Russian Federation, member of the board of the Fund for the Preservation and Study of the Native Language of the Peoples of the Russian Federation, Doctor of Philology, Evgeny Vasilyevich Golovko.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. This is a great honor for me, both to participate in the summit and to give a talk today. I want to congratulate you all one more time on this great event. This is really a very big honor to organize the Congress of Linguists in 2023. I think, and of course, Andrei Alexandrovich has said this rightly, that such rehearsals, the one that was in 2020 and now that is opening right now, are the basis for a very decent and brilliant level of organization of the Congress in 2023. According to the program of this summit in Kazan, and according to the previous programs, we are really anticipated to take part in such a big scientific event. The Congress that is going to be held in 2023 will be organized in Russia for the first time. It will be a big event not only for linguistics, but also for the whole science. I'm very sure that the event will be held on a very high level. And of course, Kazan Federal University, that deals with all the difficulties and issues of the organization, is our long-term partner. The partner of the Institute of Linguistic Research in St. Petersburg, which I represent today. To be honest, we are not so old and ancient as Kazan Federal University, but still I need to say that this year, in 2021, in December, we will be celebrating the 100th anniversary of our university foundation, a very respectful age. And of course, we'll send the invitations to take part in our celebration to our partners. But unfortunately, due to the complex epidemiological situation, this all will be held online. We hope that we'll have the so-called hybrid format, but unfortunately, still we need to admit that it is going to be held online. We hope that our partners at least will be able to take part online. We hope that we'll have an opportunity to drink coffee during the break, to shake hands, but unfortunately the situation does not allow us to do this. This or that year, this or that time, the situation will definitely change and we'll be able to do this as we want to. But now, I'd like to say a couple of words in connection with the anniversary that I've just talked about. I don't know that the things I'm going to talk about are so well known. That is why I'll tell about this. Our institute has changed its official name several times during the 100 years of its existence. And one moment, we even became the structural unit of Moscow Institute of Linguistics. But really, the Institute of Linguistics in Moscow is much younger than we are, approximately for 35 years. But the reasons and the trajectories of such decisions seem to be really very strange. But of course, this did not disturb our partnership and we hope to continue our partnership with Kazan Federal University. During the last 10 or 15 years, our connections and our partnership has become stronger, particularly stronger, due to the organization of diverse conferences, giving public lectures, and of course, this is the most important thing in our professional life, the cooperation. The cooperation is the prior point, except for some formal moments. It is very important that we have some informal friends relations, scientific relations, scholarly relations. This is very important. So as I have already said, many changes has been experienced by our institute, and of course there are some structural units that reflect the stages of development. We have the Department of Comparative Research in our institute, one of the oldest. Also, we have a significantly big Department of Theory of Grammar, which first of all attempts to contemplate on diverse problems in linguistics. Also, we have the Department of Russian languages, the languages of Russian nations. In connection with the themes announced for this summit, global ones, I think that it is directly connected with many departments in our institute. First of all, with the Department of the Languages of Russian nations, and also the Department of Documenting the Languages is connected with the thematics of the summit held by Kazan Federal University in 2021. So documenting languages is a sort of a traditional business for many linguists in our institutes. As we all know, during the last years, due to some obvious changes, this process has become much more difficult and complicated. So we are in the so-called plateau situations nowadays, but still some linguists manage to go to expeditions, but of course it is incomparable with what was many years ago. We really cooperate very tightly with your university, and our representatives take part in your summit. And also our scholars take part in the project of the Institute of Linguistics aimed to preserve the languages. We realize that we need to support the languages, or at least to fix all the most important moments. And now I'd like to demonstrate you such a full Italian and Russian dictionary. As you can see, it is rather thick. Generally, this dictionary was made by one of our deceased scholars, Alexander Pavlovich Volodin. Our condolences. But still, the dictionary was made in an international team. The members of our team were from Japan, from Germany, from the USA. So many international participants were involved in the creation of this dictionary. Of course, those who dealt with some linguistic peculiarities of the language. Unfortunately, the dictionary was left a bit not finished. But our international colleagues helped us to finish it all with the dictionary and to publish this. As the language's diversity is the main topic of the summit, talking about the so-called disappearing languages, or if to say it a bit more mildly, the so-called endangered languages. Except for this, I would also like to pay the attention to Russian language, Russian dialects. Generally, our institute is involved into creation of dictionaries. Approximately 40% of our representatives work in the so-called dictionary department. We have published the 18th and 19th century dictionaries, and our dictionaries are being used nearly in every Russian library, and this is also very important. There are no doubts. But it can seem a bit strange, but still documenting of languages is the most important thing concerning Russian language and Russian dialects, because Russian dialects gradually disappear with the same speed as many others around the world, just because they lose popularity, they lose prestige. We do have a dialects dictionary in our institute, and we have the structural unit that is involved into this field. This year, another volume of the dictionary of diverse Russian dialects has been published. Of course, it doesn't mean that all the Russian dialects will be worked out in such a way. Our dictionary and will be fulfilled step by step, year by year. Also, we have a really huge edition of the collection of all Russian dialects, and in connection with the topic of our summit. This is really very important and significant project. Of course, documenting of languages is not bordered with the work with many Russian dialects. But we can look at documenting languages from a bit different viewpoint. This year, we have published such a dictionary, Russian Language Dictionary of COVID-19 Epoch. All the new words that appeared in Russian language in 2020 have been gathered in this dictionary. Unfortunately, this COVID-19 situation is continuing, and we can assume that some other words will appear, and we'll need to include them into our dictionary and re-edit it. According to the countings of our scholars, to be honest, we have a group that is engaged in the process of gathering many word units from 2020. So according to the statistics and the countings of our colleagues, more than 5 times many other words appeared, new words appeared. All this, what I've been talking about, I think is totally connected and echoes with the topics of our summit. I'm sure, as I have already said in the beginning, that our summit will be organized as brilliantly as the previous one has been. And I would like to wish all the participants good, fruitful work, interesting communication, and let's consider that this is not just a rehearsal before 2023, but just a really very decent, interesting scientific events, very important for all linguists around the world. Thank you all very much.
Благодарим Евгения Васильевича Головко за приветствие и поддержку в организации и проведении настоящего саммита. Надеемся на дальнейшее плодотворное сотрудничество. We thank Evgeny Vasilyevich Golovko for his welcome and support in organizing and holding this summit. We look forward to further fruitful cooperation. Еще одним из наших уважаемых партнеров является Всемирная ассоциация компьютерного обучения языкам WorldCall. Нами достигнута договоренность о проведении в Казанском федеральном университете очередной проводимой один раз в 5 лет конференции WorldCall 2023. Начаты подготовительные процедуры. К сожалению, 2 дня назад поступило сообщение о внезапной болезни президента Всемирной ассоциации компьютерного обучения языкам WorldCall, профессора Политехнического университета Валенсии Анны Марии Гимена Санс. Поэтому она лишь передает свои самые наилучшие пожелания Казанскому международному лингвистическому саммиту «Языковое разнообразие в глобальном мире» KILS-2021 и выражает сожаление о том, что в этом году она не сможет принять активное участие в его работе, как это было в прошлом году. Мы со своей стороны желаем госпоже Анне Марии Гимена Санс быстрейшего выздоровления и надеемся на дальнейшее плодотворное сотрудничество в организации конференции WorldCall 2023 в Казани в стенах Казанского федерального университета. One of our respected partners is the World Association for Computer-Assisted Language Learning, WorldCall. We have reached an agreement to hold the next WorldCall 2023 conference at the Kazan Federal Universities. Conferences of this association are held every 5 years, and we have started preparatory procedures. Unfortunately, 2 days ago, there was a report about a sudden illness of the president of the WorldCall Association for Computer-Assisted Language Learning, WorldCall, professor of the Polytechnic University of Valencia, Ana Maria Gimena Sanz. Therefore, she sends her best regards to the Kazan International Linguistic Summit, Language Diversity in the Global World, KILS 2021, and regrets that this year she won't be able to take an active part in our summit as it was last year. We wish Dr. Ana Maria Gimena Sanz a speedy recovery, and we are looking forward to further fruitful cooperation in organizing the WorldCall 2023 conference at the Kazan Federal University. Уважаемые участники и гости саммита, от имени организаторов мы выражаем слова признательности всем сегодняшним участникам, организаторам и партнерам саммита. Благодарим наших партнеров Федеральное учебно-методическое объединение в системе высшего образования по укрупненной группе специальностей и направлений подготовки 450000, языкознание и литературоведение, журнал «Английский язык для академических целей». Особую благодарность хотелось бы выразить нашему техническому партнеру компании Microsoft за ее прекрасный продукт, программу Microsoft Teams, и за организационно-техническую поддержку. Желаем успехов и плодотворной работы всем участникам саммита. Dear participants and guests of the summit, on behalf of the organizers, we express our gratitude to all today's participants, the organizers and partners of the summit. We thank our other partners, the Federal Educational Methodological Association in the system of higher education of an enlarged group of specialties in the areas of training 45000, linguistics and literary studies, the journal English for academic purposes. We would like to express our special gratitude to our technical partner, Microsoft, for its excellent products, Microsoft Teams for organizational and technical support. We wish all the participants of the summit success and fruitful work. В преддверии 2023 года, когда в Казанском федеральном университете состоятся 2 крупных международных научных лингвистических мероприятия, 21-й Международный лингвистический конгресс и конференция Всемирной ассоциации компьютерного обучения языкам WorldCall, мы предлагаем вашему вниманию небольшой видеоролик о Казанском университете, одном из старейших университетов Российской Федерации. On the eve of 2023, when Kazan Federal University will host 2 major international scientific linguistic events, the 21st International Congress of Linguists, ICL-21, and the WorldCall 2023 conference, we offer you a short video about Kazan University, one of the oldest universities in Russian Federation.
Уважаемый Игорь Олегович, Я предлагаю, наверное, перенести просмотр ролика на чуть более позднее время. Это, конечно, очень интересно. Но, учитывая график и регламент нашего саммита, наверное, нам сейчас следует перейти к дальнейшему пленарному заседанию. Как вы считаете?
Хорошо, принято. Тогда, уважаемые участники и гости саммита, разрешите на этом считать церемонию открытия Казанского международного лингвистического саммита «Языковое разнообразие в глобальном мире» завершенной. Dear participants and guests of the summit, let me consider the opening ceremony of the Kazan International Linguistic Summit Language Diversity in the Global World completed at this point. Слово для ведения первого пленарного заседания саммита представляется доктору педагогических наук, профессору Казанского федерального университета Ермакееву Искандеру Энгелевичу. The floor for the first plenary session of the summit is presented to Doctor of Pedagogics, Professor of Kazan Federal University Ермакеев Искандер Энгелевич.
Спасибо, уважаемый Игорь Олегович, за предоставленное слово. И добрый день, уважаемые участники и гости Казанского международного лингвистического саммита «Языковое разнообразие в глобальном мире». Thank you, Igor Olegovich, for giving the floor. Good afternoon, the participants and guests of the Kazan International Linguistic Summit Language Diversity in the Global World. Несмотря на то, что саммит продлится целых 5 дней, каждый из них будет очень напряжен. Вам представится возможность принять участие в 5 пленарных сессиях, на которых выступят 16 ведущих ученых-лингвистов из России, Нидерландов, Великобритании, Италии, Ирана, в 5 встречах с редакторами 12 ведущих лингвистических журналов базы данных Scopus из России, США, Великобритании, Испании, Сингапура, Польши, а также в 13 тематических сессиях саммита. Even though the summit will last for 5 days, each of these days will be very intense. You will have the opportunity to take part in 5 plenary sessions with talks from 16 leading linguists from Russia, the Netherlands, Great Britain, Italy, and Iran. In 5 meetings with editors of 12 leading linguistic journals of the Scopus database from Russia, the USA, Great Britain, Spain, Singapore, and Poland, as well as in 13 thematic sessions of the summit. В этом году Казанский международный лингвистический саммит посвящен проблемам языкового разнообразия в глобальном мире, важнейшей из которых является проблема сохранения, изучения и развития языков народов мира в условиях всеобщей глобализации. Именно данной проблеме и посвящена первая пленарная сессия саммита. This year, the Kazan International Linguistic Summit is dedicated to the problems of the language diversity in the global world. One of the most important is the problem of preserving, studying and developing the language of the peoples all around the world in the context of globalization. The first plenary session of the summit is dedicated to this problem. Слово для пленарного доклада представляется директору Института филологии и межкультурной коммуникации Казанского федерального университета, члену Президиума Совета при Президенте Российской Федерации по русскому языку, главному редактору научного журнала «Филология и культура» Philology and Culture и международного научного журнала «Татарика», доктору филологических наук, профессору Радифу Рафкатовичу Замалединову. Тема его выступления – сохранение и развитие языков и культур в глобальном мире. The floor for the plenary talk is given to the head of the Institute of Philology and Intercultural Communication of Kazan Federal University, member of the Presidium of the Council under the President of the Russian Federation for the Russian Language, editor-in-chief of the scientific journal Philologia и Культура, Philology and Culture, and the international scientific journal Tatarika, Doctor of Philology, Professor Radif Рафкатович Замалединов. The topic of his talk is preservation and development of language and cultures in the global world.
Добрый день, уважаемые участники.
Dear participants and guests of the summit. On behalf of the collective body of the Institute of Philology and Cultural Communication of Kazan Federal University, scientists, the philological community of the university and the Republic of Kazakhstan, let me greet and thank you sincerely for your participation in this work. In verb linguistics, Kazan and Kazan University are undoubtedly associated with the Kazan Linguistic School. As you know, it originated in the second half of the 19th century at the Kazan Imperial University, and its founder was an outstanding scientist who made an invaluable contribution to the development of world science, Ivan Alexandrovich Baudouin de Courtenay. In verb linguistics, the Kazan Linguistic School is recognized as a paragon of predicting the science of language. It was its representatives who first began to apply mathematical models in linguistics, which ultimately led to the active development of mathematical and subsequently computer linguistics at Kazan University and beyond. It was in Kazan that one of the most important trends in linguistics appeared, experimental phonetics, the achievements of which are now used in various fields, from the correction of speech pathologies to the creation of tools for the analysis and synthesis of speech. Through the efforts of representatives of the Kazan Linguistic School, Vasily Alexeyevich Bogoroditsky in particular, the first laboratory of experimental phonetics was established in Kazan, and the technology of experimental analysis of spoken speech, perfect for that time, was developed. More than 2 centuries of traditions of philological science and education are sustained and represented by the Institute of Philology and Intercultural Communication and a number of other structural subdivisions of Kazan Federal University. If Baudouin de Courtenay and his closest followers began research at the junction of linguistics with other sciences, laid the foundations for a number of interdisciplinary areas in linguistics, these areas are currently being actively developed by the modern generation of Kazan scientists in the field of clinical, cognitive, digital linguistics, as well as psycholinguistics, sociolinguistics, and linguistic methods. Thus, the staff of the research laboratory text analytics of our institute are working on the creation of a methodology and tools for automated linguistic analysis of natural language texts, in particular on the development of a parametric text model and the creation of a typology of texts. They are concerned with determining the difficulty of receiving texts in Russian. First of all, textbooks and teaching aids included in the federal list of textbooks approved by the Ministry of Education of the Russian Federation for use in Russian schools. According to the criteria of comprehensibility and appropriateness for school children, this work is carried out in collaboration with a number of leading scientific schools, such as Alexander Hakevich Laboratory of Computational Linguistics of the Institute for Information Transmission Problems of the Russian Academy of Sciences, the Center for Research and English Language Learning and Assessment, and the University of Bedfordshire, led by Professor Tony Green, Arizona State University Solet Lab, headed by Professor Danielle McNamara, Department of Information Technology of the Polytechnic University, Bucharest, under the guidance of Professor Mihai Dascălu and others. To date, the laboratory workers have received an inventor certificate for the database educational corpus of the Russian language with a volume of more than 5 million words. A formula for the readability of educational text in Russian has been developed, and on this basis, an analyzer of text in Russian Lingua has been created, which automatically analyzes 30 parameters of text in Russian. The analyzer calculates the correspondence of the text to its reading address, cognitive and linguistic abilities of the reader. For text in Russian, the correspondence to the year of study at school is indicated. And for text in Russian as a foreign language, an indication of the level of proficiency proposed in accordance with the common European framework of reference for languages. The laboratory is planning the creation of an automatic examiner that automatically evaluates students' written work, the creation of a digital platform for the assessment of textbooks and teaching materials with a volume of more than 10 million words, the development of a training program for active reading and thinking strategies, iStart.ru, aimed at being employed by students doing independent work, which can be used to build individual learning paths, etc. Our workers at the Linguistics and Artificial Intelligence Research Laboratory carry out important research in the field of historical linguistics. A computer model of the distribution and evolution of language families has been built, containing data on 5,500 languages. The main parameters of evolution have been calculated: the average lifetime of a language and the speed of movement of the population, a language speaker. The constructed computer model is most consistent with the modern state of languages, on the assumption that proto-languages arose independently in several places of the globe and did not spread from a single source. The staff of this laboratory has developed and compared 6 automatic methods for determining the ancestral home of language families. The two best methods have been put forward and the conditions of their application have been described. Fundamental research on to generate semantic dictionaries using artificial intelligence has been carried out. For the first time, a dictionary of the Russian language with labels for the degree of concreteness and abstractness of words was created. It includes 1,500 words with the estimates of survey respondents and more than 20,000 words, with estimates worked out by the latest generation neural network. A similar dictionary for the English language has also been created, superior in quality to all previously compiled dictionaries. On the basis of the Institute of Philology and Intercultural Communication of Kazan Federal University, the research laboratory in Neurocognitive Studies is successfully functioning. A little while ago, in 2021, its workers conducted research in the field of diagnostics, cognitive and speech rehabilitation of children with mental retardation, children with epilepsy, autism spectrum disorders, alalia, dyslexia, and dysgraphia, as well as non-specific reading and writing disorders. Cognitive and speech assistance to children with infantile cerebral palsy, craniocerebral traumas, genetic syndromes, as well as adult stroke patients is being provided. The laboratory staff, linguists, doctors, psychologists are implementing the results of their developments in the Speech Pathology Center of the University Clinic, as well as in a specialized kindergarten of Kazan Federal University for children with autism spectrum disorders. The project on studying the dynamics of the development of higher mental functions and speech in children and adolescents with epilepsy is being implemented. A toolkit for the express assessment of neuropsychological and speech status intended for the daily practice of neurologists, epileptologists, clinical psychologists, and linguists has been developed. The laboratory also conducts research related to the study of post-COVID disorders associated with neurological pathologies, cognitive impairments, and speech disorders. The specificity of the verbalization of sensations associated with post-COVID parosmia and parageusia is studied. Thanks to the active scientific and educational activity of the Institute of Philology and Intercultural Communication, as well as the Institute of International Relations, the Labaca Institute, the Institute of Psychology and Education, Kazan Federal University has been ranked among the best universities in the world in recent years, according to the results of Philological Subject Rankings QS. In 2021, the university entered the top 200 of the QS subject ranking in linguistics, the top 250 in English literature, and the top 300 in modern languages, being one of the 3 Russian universities that are included in all 3 QS languages. We see the guarantee of our achievement that successes and fruitful cooperation with leading domestic and foreign scientists, researchers, and practitioners, major scientific and educational centers, as well as professional associations. In my report, I have already voiced a number of them. I would also like to list our partners in the Russian Federation. These are practically all the institutes of the philological profile of the Russian Academy of Sciences, Moscow State University, and People's Friendship University of Russia, as well as the Russian Academy of Education, the Pushkin State Institute of the Russian Language, the Academy of Sciences of the Republic of Tatarstan, the Institute of History, Language and Literature of the Ufa Federal Research Center of the Russian Academy of Sciences, and many others. Starting with 219, we have begun active cooperation with the Permanent International Committee of Linguists. By the decision of this committee, the 21st International Congress of Linguists will be held in Kazan in 2023. Deputy Secretary General of this association, Secretary of the Organizing Committee of the 21st International Congress of Linguists 2023 in Kazan, Mr. Kamila Hamans is taking part in the work of the current summit. Taking this opportunity, I publicly express our gratitude to him for mutual understanding and productive cooperation. One of the main directions of the Institute of Philology and Intercultural Communication of Kazan Federal University over the past decades has been active scientific and educational activities in the field of preservation and development of native, primarily Russian and Tatar languages and cultures. In modern environment of universal informational support and globalization, native languages need versatile support more than ever. The threat of the peoples losing their native languages, cultures, and traditions is becoming obvious, which gives rise to an urgent and large-scale problem of their preservation and development. According to UNESCO, half of the 6,500 languages existing in the world today are threatened with extinction. We know that if more than 30% of children of a particular nation do not learn their native language, it can disappear. Therefore, each of us should think about the situation and prospects for the preservation and development of the native languages and cultures. Kazan Federal University is located in a region where for many centuries speakers of different structured languages have lived compactly. Turkic, Finno-Ugric, Indo-European, and today there are 6 national republics that are part of Russia. In the last 25-30 years in the Republic of Tatarstan, thanks to the joint activities of the scientific community led by scientists of our university and the Academy of Sciences, the general public and the government of the Republic, significant success has been achieved in the field of national language policy. Conditions have been created for the development of languages and cultures of representatives of all peoples living on the territory of the Republic. We are very pleased that one of the main platforms for developing concepts, scientific and methodological work in all these areas today is the Institute of Philology and Intercultural Communication of Kazan Federal University. It employs a highly qualified team of scientists and professors. The Kazan International Linguistic Center successfully operates, organizing language courses, advanced training programs, professional retraining, and international language certifications in the state languages of the Republic and in all languages that are in demand today in the country and the world. Free Tatar language courses, annually organized by the Institute of Philology and Intercultural Communication of the Kazan Federal University, together with the Commission under the President of the Republic of Tatarstan on the preservation and development of the Tatar language, are very popular among the population of the Republic. After electronic registration, hundreds of listeners, depending on their level of language competence, are divided into several language groups, from beginners to advanced, and begin training. In all groups, classes are conducted by highly qualified professors of our institute, those who have the experience of intensive language teaching. In the course of training, course participants acquire communication skills and abilities in the Tatar language, improve the linguistic and ethnocultural competences necessary for communication situations of everyday communication. The work of our professors, who have modern methods of teaching the Tatar language for a wide variety of categories of students in hand, help to overcome language and psychological barriers, fear, and learn to speak Tatar within the scope of the topics provided by the program. In recent years, thanks to the tireless concern of the leadership of the Republic of Tatarstan about the equal functioning of the 2 state languages, Russian and Tatar, by order of the Office of the President of the Republic of Tatarstan, short-term courses and advanced training courses in the Tatar and Russian languages for the leadership, heads of the executive authorities of the Republic have been launched. To date, such courses have already been held twice, according to specially developed programs where more than 100 learners were trained, including 20 ministers and other leading officials of the Republican scale. The online school Anatole Mother Tongue, supervised by scientists of the Institute of Philology and Intercultural Communication, has received an even greater resonance all over the world. This project has been launched by the President of our Republic, Rustam Nurgalevich Minnikhanov, back in 2013. The uniqueness of this educational resource lies in the fact that it provides an opportunity for each user to study the Tatar language free of charge as a means of speech communication, taking into account international linguistic competencies as well as to get acquainted with the culture and traditions of the Tatar people. The advantages of this distance course in comparison with the traditional teaching methodology are teaching according to the level of the user, media support of the entire course, the presence of the practical laboratory for training phonetic, vocabulary, and grammar skills, a system of tracking results to assess the effectiveness of training. The user can start learning from any level. To do this, first he must determine his current level of proficiency in the Tatar language by the main types of speech activity, and then indicate the level that he would like to achieve. As a result, the computer provides the user with information on the level of to start learning. The most important element of the online course is speaking sessions in real time, where users have the opportunity to communicate with teachers of the Center for Methodological Support of the Online School of the Institute of Philology and Intercultural Communication of Kazan Federal University, developing their communication skills. This makes it especially attractive to those users who live outside the language environment and cannot directly communicate with native speakers. Currently, the online school Anatole has about 40,000 registered users. Among them are residents of the Republic of Tatarstan, representatives of other regions of the Russian Federation, as well as users from more than 150 countries of the world. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Turkey, Japan, Australia, the USA, Germany, Finland, Canada, and other countries. Anatole Online School won the Keyword All Russian Prize, established by the Federal Agency for Ethnic Affairs of the Russian Federation, in the Best Multimedia Project nomination. An equally large-scale project for the preservation and development of native languages is the Kayum-Nasiri Institute, created in 2014 on the basis of the Institute of Philology and Intercultural Communication of the Kazan Federal University, as part of the implementation of the measures of the State Program of the Republic of Tatarstan for the preservation, study, and development of the state languages of the Republic of Tatarstan and other languages in the Republic. It is named after an outstanding Tatar educator and is designed to develop cooperation in the field of education to support, popularize, and develop the Tatar language culture in the region for the Russian Federation, the Tatar and Russian languages and cultures in the countries of near and far abroad. The Institute is guided by the experience of successful and well-known similar world educational centers such as Goethe Institute, Cervantes Institute, and the relatively new Confucius Institute and Yunus Emre Institute. Today, the Kayum-Nasiri Institute has 11 educational and cultural centers in such cities of Russia and abroad as Moscow, St. Petersburg, Bishkek, Nur-Sultan, Ekaterinburg, Ufa, Penza, Cheboksary, Ulyanovsk, Tobolsk, Samara. In 2021, the 12th center will open Barda, Perm region. As part of the work of the Institute, the following are organized: free courses for those wishing to study the Tatar language, testing of citizens for knowledge of the Tatar and Russian languages, scientific and practical conferences, content and cultural and educational events aimed at popularizing the Tatar and Russian languages and cultures. The learners of the centers of the Kayum-Nasiri Institute show great interest in the monthly online lectures of scientists from Kazan Federal University on various aspects of the Tatar language, literature, and history. In 2017, the Kayum-Nasiri Institute was awarded the All-Russian Keyword Prize of the Federal Agency for Ethnic Affairs for the preservation of linguistic diversity in the nomination for the promotion of languages of Russia abroad. The problem of teaching the Tatar language to great masses of the population, as well as students of educational organizations of various types and levels, is inextricably linked with the solution to the issue of determining the current level of language proficiency in order to build a further educational perspective, language certification in the Tatar language. For this, in 2014, on the basis of our institute, within the framework of the State Program of the Republic of Tatarstan, preservation, study, and development of the state languages of the Republic of Tatarstan and other languages in the Republic of Tatarstan, the Center for Language Certification in the Tatar language was created. It successfully solves the problems of developing and implementing international standards of Tatar language proficiency corresponding to the common European competencies of language proficiency, testing of citizens living in the Russian Federation, near and far abroad, for knowledge of the Tatar language. The collective body of the Institute, within the framework of the implementation of the State Program of the Republic of Tatarstan, preservation, study, and development of the state languages of the Republic of Tatarstan and other languages in the Republic of Tatarstan, publishes the international journal Tatarica. It is devoted to the problems of studying the Tatar language and literature, history, as well as education and culture. The journal is published in Russian, Tatar, and English. We believe that one of the most important means of sustaining native languages is a project aimed at creating a system of bilingual and multicultural education. The beginning of the 21st century is characterized by a tendency towards the globalization of the life of the world community. Languages are the main vehicles for interaction and cooperation in the social and economic, cultural, and political spheres of the life of modern society. This is especially important for the Republic of Tatarstan, a multinational region with a multilingual population closely integrated into the world's social, economic, and cultural space. Therefore, the key task of a modern school of a new type in the Republic of Tatarstan is teaching multilingualism to school children, not only at the communicative level, but also at a deeper subject level. Both the personal and professional careers of the citizens of the new millennium will depend on the knowledge of various languages, and moreover, the ability to think and act in these languages. This task is very difficult and, in our opinion, can be solved only gradually. Any multilingualism begins with bilingualism. We took the first steps in this direction back in the 2018-2019 academic year, when a large-scale training of bilingual teaching staff began. By order of the Republic of Tatarstan, 125 students from 8 regions of the Russian Federation and 29 municipalities of the Republic of Tatarstan were admitted to Kazan Federal University for special bilingual educational programs of a dual profile: mathematics and computer science, history and social studies, and others. In the 2019-2020 academic year, 265 students were already enrolled in these programs. Since 2020, admission to special multilingual educational teacher training programs has begun. At present, almost 600 students are studying on the basis of the project for the training of bi- and multilingual pedagogical personnel on the basis of our institute. And in addition, retraining and advanced training of polylingual pedagogical personnel is being carried out. Collaboration with educational organizations has originated within the framework of the Republican project Adimnar, the Path to Knowledge and Agreement. This project in the Republic is supervised by the first President of the Republic of Tatarstan, UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador, Hero of Labor of the Russian Federation, Shaimiev Mintimer Sharipovich. The process of multilingual pedagogical staff training, which involves conducting the education process in 3 languages, is very complicated and practically has no analogues in domestic pedagogical education. How difficulty reveals itself in the fact that all 3 languages are used as a means of educational and cognitive activity in the process of professional training. Therefore, the foundation for the preparation of a multilingual teacher is based on the methodology of subject-language integrated learning, KIL, which is successfully used in various countries of Europe and Asia. It allows teaching and learning subjects through a non-native language, as well as developing knowledge and skills in the subject area, language competence, and cognitive abilities simultaneously. Our scientists are developing bi- and multilingual strategies for educational, cognitive, and communicative and research activities of students, contributing to their intellectual development. I think that the experience of Kazan Federal University in this area may be of significant interest to other regions of the country and the world. It is symbolic that the Kazan International Linguistic Summit, Linguistic Diversity in Global World, is being held in 2021, which was declared the Year of Native Languages and National Unity in our Republic by the decree of the President of the Republic of Tatarstan. The main goals of this important educational project are the preservation and development of the native languages, culture and traditions of all peoples living in our republic, the strengthening of the unity of the multinational people of the Russian Federation. Our summit is also dedicated to the Year of Native Languages and National Unity. The summit is one of the preparatory stages for the International Congress of Linguists at the Kazan Federal University in 2023. The Institute of Linguistics and the Institute of Linguistic Research of the Russian Academy of Sciences, the Russian Society of Teachers of Russian Language and Literature, and the International Association of Teachers of Russian Language and Literature are taking part in organizing and conducting the current summit together with the Kazan Federal University and the Permanent International Committee of Linguists. I would like to express my personal gratitude to their leaders, prominent world-renowned linguists, Professor David Bradley from Australia, advisor to the President of the Russian Federation of Cultural Affairs, Chairman of the Russian Language Council under the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Ilyich Tolstoy, Professor, member of the European Academy, Director of the Institute of Linguistics of the Russian Academy of Sciences, Andrei Alexandrovich Kibrik, corresponding member of the Russian Academy of Sciences, Director of the Institute of Linguistic Research of the Russian Academy of Sciences, Evgenia Vasilyevich Головко, and, of course, Rector of Kazan Federal University, academician of the Russian Academy of Education and the Academy of Sciences of the Republic of Tatarstan, Professor Гафурова Ильшата Рафкатовича, and all colleagues from our university who took an active part in organizing and conducting this summit. Thank you for your attention.
Большое спасибо, уважаемый Радиф Рафкатович, за ваше глубокое и содержательное выступление. Thank you very much, dear Радиф Рафкатович, for your thoughtful and profound presentation. Ну и сейчас слово для представления второго участника первой пленарной сессии саммита предоставляется моей уважаемой коллеге, доктору филологических наук Эльзаре Васильевне Гафиятовой. The floor for the presentation of the second participant of the first plenary session of the summit is given to my distinguished colleague, Doctor of Philology, Эльзара Васильевна Гафиятова. Welcome, please.
Спасибо, уважаемый Искандер Энгелевич, за предоставленное слово. Уважаемые гости и участники саммита, позвольте представить вам следующего докладчика. С пленарным докладом «Why language counts more than a Siberian tiger» выступит заместитель генерального секретаря Постоянного комитета лингвистов и генеральный секретарь Международного съезда лингвистов ICL-21, запланированного к проведению в 2023 году на базе Казанского федерального университета профессор Камиля Хаманса. Thank you, Искандер Энгелевич, for giving me a floor. Dear guests and the participants of the summit, let me introduce the next speaker. I present you Associated Secretary General of Permanent Committee of Linguists and Secretary General of the International Congress of Linguists, ICL-21, planned to be held within the walls of Kazan Federal University in 2023, Professor Kamil Hamans, and his presentation, Why a Language Counts More Than a Siberian Tiger. So please, Kamil, Professor Hamans, you are welcome.
Thank you very much for your introduction, Elzara. And let me start with the presentation immediately. And there are, of course, a lot of, let's say, biological or ecological arguments why loss of part of the creation is lost in the ecological chain, and so why, let's say, the loss of a plant, of an animal is a real loss to the world. All plants and all animals have their own place in the food chain, so the disappearance of a species just affects the whole chain, and therefore, in the long run, also threatens humanity. And that is an argument which is often used to protect flora and fauna, but sometimes also languages and cultural artifacts. However, the loss of social and cultural phenomena such as languages or religions
социальных культурных феноменов вроде религии или культуры или языка. Пример.
But there is a difference. The worldview of people is expressed in their language and religion and not in plants or in animals. And so loss of cultural phenomena means a loss of knowledge and tradition. So it is maybe a bit more, or at least different from the loss of flora and fauna. There is also an aesthetic argument why we should defend flora, fauna, and cultural events. There is something going on here. I don't know what. Yeah, now we are back on the first slide. That wasn't meant. Okay, I'll continue. Plants and animals are not only valued for the biological function, but above all for their beauty. So when a Siberian tiger will disappear, or the last Siberian tiger will disappear, then a thing of beauty will be lost. And folklorists and language enthusiasts take the same position when it comes to folk culture, to vernaculars, dialects, and exotic languages, or languages in general. And they see the beauty of these phenomena and therefore regard the disappearance of these phenomena of languages, cultures, religions as a loss of beauty. And they see giving up diversity as an impoverishment, which it is, of course, but there is more. The initiative of language activists go a step further. The interest in endangered languages was not a matter of language life, of cultural preservation. It were language activists who claimed language rights. And these activists belonged to minorities whose languages were threatened. And for instance, the Flemish in Belgium, they were second-class citizens. French was the main and the first language, and so the Flemish had to fight for their rights. The Basque and the Catalans in Spain still do the same. The Frisians in the Netherlands, in a way, too, and the German-speaking minority in Alto Adige or Südtirol too. And all these minorities, the ones I mentioned here, they used even violence measures to fight for their rights in 1950s, 60s and 70s, since they felt oppressed, considered as second-class citizens, and their economic prospects were less than those of the majority language speakers. And I said, it started in the 1950s, and some of those minorities even used violence. And that was why international organizations started to think about minority rights. And in 1950, the Council of Europe accepted the Convention of Human Rights. But that was a very general convention. In 1966, the United Nations accepted the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, in which the rights of minorities are expressed as well, but it is still a very general convention. In 1998, the Council of Europe, and the Council of Europe is not the EU, the Council of Europe is a Strasbourg-based organization of which Russia is a member too. The Council of Europe accepted in 1998 the Framework Convention for the Protection of National Minorities. And this is a convention which deals with national minorities in a very detailed way, but it is not a convention about languages. That is the European Charter. The first discussions about the European Charter started in the 1950s and 60s in the Council of Europe, but it lasted till 1992 that the Council of Europe accepted the European Charter for regional or minority languages, and that was due to the actions by people from Flanders, from Northern Ireland, from Spain, from the north of Italy, and all these minorities who fought in the 1950s, 60s and 70s for their right, they were at the foundation of this European Charter. And it took another 6 years before the Charter came into force in 1998. And the aim of the Charter is to protect and to promote the rights of speakers of traditional, regional and minority languages. Traditional, regional and minority languages, not the minority languages of immigrant workers. And the Charter says explicitly diversity implies cultural wealth. So it is more or less that aesthetic or ecological argument I mentioned in the beginning. Outside Europe, people thought about rights of minority languages or endangered languages too. In the United States, for instance, there is a tradition of linguistic anthropology started with Boas and Sapir and Lee Wolf, and we have a whole session at this summit devoted to the work of Sapir. In 1991, the Linguistic Society of America organized a panel on language endangerment. It was organized by Colette Craig, who had worked in Nicaragua, and Ken Hale. And it was on the occasion of the celebration of the 500th anniversary of the discovery of America. Long before the discovery of America, and the discovery of America was not done, of course, by Columbus, as we now know, by the Scandinavians came first, but of course the indigenous people were already for thousands and thousands of years. But okay, this 500th anniversary was used as an excuse to organize the panel on language endangerment, but immediately there was a wave of protest of the Alliance of Indigenous Communities. They said, we are here much longer than all these newcomers and these new languages, and especially English. The year after the LSA panel, Language, the main journal on linguistics, and it is the Journal of the Linguistic Society of America, devoted a whole issue to the endangerment of languages and started a debate about the role of linguistics in situations of language endangerment. And that is a discussion, for instance, between Peter Leddervogt and Nancy Dorian. And Peter Leddervogt defended the point of view that there should be a language unity, since he saw the preservation and the promotion of endangered languages as a preservation of tribalism. And you can imagine that Nancy Dorian was against it. And it was not only the Council of Europe or the Linguistic Society of America who thought about the rights of endangered languages. As I said in the opening remarks of this summit, in 1991, Bobby Robbins and Bob Uhlenbeck, they published the first survey of language endangerment, endangered languages. And in 1999, the United Nations came up with a declaration for the rights of indigenous people, in which languages are mentioned. And in 2003, UNESCO accepted a convention for the safeguarding of the intangible cultural heritage, in which language is a main part. And how about Russia or the Soviet language policy? Actually, in Russia, the rights of the minorities were safeguarded much earlier. That was in 1915, by the Declaration of the Rights of the People of Russia. And in 1923, that was under Lenin, you got a policy of, I'm not going to pronounce this Russian word since you all will start laughing, but in the digitization. And post-revolutionary Russia became the first country in which minority rights were guaranteed. However, the situation changed dramatically during Stalin's time, and then the rights of the minorities were given up. The Russian Constitution of 1993 says that the Russian language is the state language on the whole territory of the Russian Federation. However, in 1682, the Constitution says the republics have the right to establish their own state language to be used together with the state language of the Russian Federation. And Article 68.3 says the Russian Federation guarantees the right to preserve their native language and to create conditions for its study and development to all of its peoples, to all ethnicities. That sounds great. However, there were later developments. In 1998, there was a revision of the law on the languages of the people of the Federation, and these changes concerned the formulation prescribing the use of the state languages of the ethnic republics, from mandatory requirements to formulations with a permissive character. And that even went a step further in the federal law of 2012 about education in the Russian Federation. And this law replaced the 1992 law on education, and it seriously reduced the ethnic component. And in 2015, the Federal Agency for Nationality Affairs came up, and the aim and priorities of this agency, according to its head, is monitoring the inter-ethnic situation in the regions of Russia and not promoting the indigenous languages or the minority languages, but promoting Russian as a means to unite the country. And of course, there's a very good reason to promote a general language, but at the same time, we had hoped that promoting the minority languages would have been an aim too. And the consequence now is that there is a risk of folklorization of minorities. And that is not only in Russia. You see that in more countries. In the current political situation, the fear of separatism predominates rather than the recognition of minority rights. Recognition of minority rights was something which came up in the late 50s and was stimulated in the 60s and came to its heydays in the 70s, 80s, 90s. But after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the upcoming political tensions not only between Russia and Europe, but also in the rest of the world, the fear of separatism is becoming more and more prominent, and that you see, for example, in Spain, and you see it here. And that is why there is not much progress on minority language policy. However, protecting languages is much more than minority politics, and that's why we, as people, as the Comité International Permanent des Linguistes, still consider the rights of minority languages as one of our priorities. It is the importance of the mother tongue. The language or languages in which one grows up are the languages in which people can best express themselves. And why do I say language or languages in which one grows up? We are used to one language spoken in a family, but in Africa or in New Guinea, it is often the case that 2 or 3 languages are spoken in a family: a father's language, a mother's language, and a grandmother's language, etc. If such a language language is a minority language, so that mother tongue, there is a very good chance that this language will be partially or completely supplanted in the school situation or later in life. And this is of course at the expense of the expressive skills of the speakers of the minority languages, of the minority language. As a result, he or she has fewer opportunities, has fewer possibilities to express the emotions verbally, and their chance of well-being decreases. And this in itself should be reason enough to protect and support native languages. The fact that people can express themselves best in the language they grew up. This doesn't mean that one shouldn't teach a majority language or a world language, but next to each other. The economic disadvantages and social disadvantages of speaking a minority languages lead many parents to give up their native languages in favor of a larger language. They think that their children will get more chances when they learn the majority language from their first day. And this is especially important if the language policy is also aimed at a uniform standard language, as has been the case in France for centuries and partly still is. However, parents who themselves have a poor command of the adopted standard language can only transfer that language poorly, and that has all sorts of harmful consequences and economic damage for the following generations. And that's why this is a plea towards a multilingual society. Instead of striving for a monolingual future, we should focus on multilingualism. Monolingualism as something we should aim at is a consequence of 19th century European nationalism. And that is that old nation, that old idea of one nation, one language. Each nation should have one and the same language, which should characterize the nation. That goes back to Herder. This idea of monolingualism should be replaced by an acceptance of multilingualism in the community, of course, but also a multilingualism of speakers, as this is a matter of course, in Africa already, for example. And that's why we think, as people, that we should give up the idea of a monolingual future. We should aim for multilingualism, which means that we have to defend and promote minority languages, which are the native languages of groups of people in our society. And the argument for the protection and promotion of endangered languages goes much further than what I said in the beginning. Languages deserve not only to be protected and promoted because they are the unique creatures of the human mind, and that consequently the loss of a language means a loss of knowledge, insight and tradition, or because its speakers should be treated on equal footing with speakers of larger languages. This is of course right, but also and above all because the language you grow up in gives you the best chance to develop and be yourself completely. And that is why all languages deserve protection, if only to be able to continue to be used by speakers alongside one or more other languages. Thank you.
Большое спасибо, профессор Хаманс, за столь познавательный доклад. Тема была очень актуальной. Thank you very much, Professor Hamans, for such an informative presentation. It's a very prominent topic. Как уже сказал мой уважаемый коллега, Казанский международный лингвистический саммит «Языковое разнообразие в глобальном мире» будет очень напряженным. Только сегодня в разное время состоятся 3 тематические сессии по математической, квантитативной компьютерной лингвистике, по палеославистике, а также по когнитивной лингвистике. As it has already been mentioned, Kazan International Linguistic Summit, Language Diversity in Modern World, will be very uptight. Today only there will be 3 thematic sessions during the day, namely Computer and Corpus Linguistics, Paleoslavonic Studies, and Cognitive Linguistics. Кроме того, в 16 часов вас ожидает встреча с главными редакторами журналов первого квартиля International Journal of Multilingualism, издательство Taylor and Francis, Studies and Second Language Acquisition, издательство Cambridge University Press, Великобритания, а также с соредакторами журнала Theory and Practice of Second Language Acquisition, издательство University of Silesia Press. Moreover, today at 4 o'clock you will be able to meet editors-in-chief of Scopus Index Q1 journals, International Journal of Multilingualism, published by Taylor and Francis, Rotteldeutsch, and Studies in Second Language Acquisition, published by Cambridge University Press, as well as co-editors of Theory and Practice of Second Language Acquisition, journal published by University of Silesia Press. Мы ждем вас на каждом из мероприятий саммита, которые будут весьма интересными и, как мы надеемся, полезными. На этом первая пленарная сессия саммита объявляется закрытой. We welcome you at every summit's event, which will be both interesting and hopefully valuable. And that takes us to the end of the first plenary session of the summit. Thank you.